I ain't gonna lie. I've been holding a lot of shit in lately. Man, I just had like a 3.5 hour cry.
What do I owe the pleasure? What do I owe the pleasure? Last time we speaking together, we wash your car for you. We wash your car. We wash your car with no shame in our hustle. When you got them getting it to that wash, and you know that tip gonna be good like this goddamn this cold. Y'all better stop buying this slippery soap, man. What's going on there?
You ever notice how every time people think a rap beef is over, 50 Cent finds a way to pull everybody right back in? One minute it feels like that old 50 versus Rick Ross stuff is just history, a bunch of memes and old diss tracks. Then, out of nowhere, a recording drops, the group chats start lighting up, and suddenly Ross looks like he is playing defense again while 50 is sitting back watching it unfold. In this video, we are going to walk through how that leaked recording changed the energy around Ross, why it hit so hard in the middle of all the Diddy drama, and what people inside the industry are quietly saying about what might come next. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment if you love this kind of content. All right, let's dive in. To really get why this moment matters, you have to start with the history between these two. Back in the late 2000s, when Ross first went at 50, most people thought it was just another rap clash. There were diss tracks, music videos, jokes, and a lot of back and forth. Ross leaned into the boss character. 50 leaned into humiliation. He dug up the corrections officer photo, made those Officer Ricky skits, and did everything he could to make Ross look like he was pretending. On the surface, Ross took those hits and kept moving. He dropped albums, stacked features, linked up with big names, and turned the MMG brand into something real. A lot of fans started acting like he won the beef just by surviving it and staying successful. But here is the thing about 50. He is the type who does not forget anything. When other people move on, he keeps receipts. He watches, he waits, and he looks for pressure points. Fast forward to the last few years. Diddy starts facing serious lawsuits. Federal agents show up, hard drives get seized, and stories about wild parties and secret recordings begin to spread. You have lawyers on live streams talking about tapes being shopped around, people who did not know they were being filmed, and celebrities who are suddenly very quiet online. In a 2019 interview, 50 already hinted that some rappers were nervous because they had been at those parties and did not know what might have been captured. That comment seemed dramatic at the time. Now a lot of people are replaying it and wondering how much he already knew. So when this latest recording involving Ross hit the internet, it did not feel random. It felt like part of a long game. From what has been described, the audio does not show Ross keeping distance from Diddy. It makes him sound a lot closer to that world than he has ever publicly admitted. There are allegedly conversations about business, deals, and relationships that do not match the image he has been selling for years. Now, none of us were in the room. Everything here is based on what has been reported and what people who claim to have heard the recording are saying. The exact details are still unclear, but the reaction tells you a lot.
Just like New York, just like Mount Vernon, New York City, Mount Vernon, and Miami, all that is the same, bruh. Nobody wants to be near him. Nobody wants to touch what he touched, be where he at. You understand? It's crazy, bruh, how his fall from grace, which was never from grace. It's just like the devil just kicked him out of hell. Because he was never in nothing graceful and did anything graceful. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what you say about, okay, he did the music, he had the bad boy legacy and everything like that, man. But, you know, a few albums, a few people, you know, made to be famous, but they not here to tell their story. Black Rob, Biggie, Craig Mack. They not here to tell a story, bro. And now you got everybody telling his story.
Yeah, and I know 50, he did a recent interview with US Weekly saying that the reason why rappers are quiet about, Diddy's situation is because they've been to his parties and they don't know what got caught on tape.
Bro, those people who was caught at Diddy party did not know that he had 250 tape recorders in that house. That's a big house.
Industry people do not rush into emergency meetings over a harmless clip. When that leak dropped, insiders say executives started making calls immediately. Legal teams wanted to know who recorded it, how it got out, and whether it could create new problems if federal investigators ever decided to pull that audio into something bigger. PR teams were trying to decide if Ross should respond, stay silent, or let lawyers talk for him. Meanwhile, 50 did not need to say much at all. That is another pattern with him. He knows that if the content is strong enough, he can just post it with minimal commentary and let the internet do the heavy lifting. Ross's reaction is where things really started to unravel. Instead of a calm, controlled statement, he jumped online and went live. His voice was raised, his energy was off, and he started firing off comments that sounded more emotional than strategic. He tried to drag attention in other directions, brought up old achievements, and took little shots that did not actually address what people had just heard on the tape. You can always tell when a team is scrambling behind the scenes. Reportedly, there were attempts to get the recording taken down through copyright claims and platform flags. Some clips disappeared, but it did not matter. Once a piece of audio like that is screen recorded, saved, and chopped up by hundreds of accounts, it lives its own life. You cannot pull it back.
I'm confirming or I'm 100% factual, but it's somebody in this story of things that seems more reliable than others, Race, is what I'll say it, just to protect my sources. But this source informed me of who these A-list celebrities are on these tapes that are being allegedly auctioned off online and through the networks. And it's put me in a little bit of a bind because I like to be fully transparent with the audience. I want to say things, but I also realize from what I'm told, because again, I haven't seen them directly yet. I haven't, and I don't know if I want to. Race, I want your advice on that too. But the problem I have is just like, typically I want to report these things, but I got to be careful legally, ethically, morally as to what we report on here. Because as Ariel, the lawyer here, did admit, and I can attest based on the information I got from a separate reliable source, people in these videos don't know they're being videotaped. That's a big issue, Race, right? Let's start out right there. If there are people on these tapes that don't know that they were being filmed, is that okay to talk about and to share?
I have a big problem with that, as do you, Andy, and you tend to be an ethical guy and you're taking the high ground here. Notwithstanding the fact that you may have some significant information and reliable information, but the reality is that, look, I mean, if people were recorded non-consensually and you're the one to identify them, I think that's a problem, right? And I think anytime anyone has content, right, this is not an email, this is not a text message, this is video. Right. And there's specific statutes, without using specific language I don't want to get into, but everybody knows what we're talking about here.
It's Diddy with this person, I'll say that. It's Diddy with this person. Actually, yes.
Yeah, and see, the problem is, again, like non-consensually recorded, you've got a victim here who may not want to be publicly identified. That's the problem. That's the problem. And they have a right to proceed if they want to, whether it's criminally or civilly, without being identified, because we know what's going to happen. As soon as they identify themselves, there's going to be a bunch of people that come out of the woodwork who are going to unequivocally harass them and claim that didn't happen, and they're making stuff up. And there's the victims that we want to protect here, and that's significant.
Well, it's interesting because here's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I know a lot of you are like, Andy, just say it. No, I'm not going to say them, but I wanted to have this conversation as to why we're not saying it and why I think others haven't yet said it, Raised, because again, legally, ethically, morally, it's just not right. Now, there's an argument I've had with people who are like, well, they knew what they were doing with Diddy. Like these were consensual acts, like they knew, and he filmed other times. So I don't know what the big deal is. It's going to come out. It's going to come out is what I keep hearing from other reliable sources. It may, guys, it may come out, but it's not going to come out via me. That's just to warn you all, because I don't think it's wise for us to put out something like you just confirmed it without the consent of the other person in the video. Because again, from what I'm gathering based on some of these tapes, and again, we're still learning.
While all of this was happening, you could see the subtle shifts in the industry. Certain artists who used to be loud in Ross's comments went quiet. A few people who never publicly cozy up to 50 suddenly liked his posts or dropped little supportive comments. Some upcoming collaborations that had been teased months before quietly went missing from the schedule. Nobody put out official press releases saying, "We are backing away from Ross." The music business does not work like that. Instead, people slowly create distance. Calls stop getting returned. Features take longer to clear. Brand emails start using phrases like, "Maybe we should revisit this later." Now, running underneath all of this is the bigger conversation about leaked recordings and what is fair game. On different shows, hosts and attorneys have been wrestling with the same question. How much of this is exposing the truth, and how much of it is exploiting people who never agreed to be recorded or identified? One lawyer flat out said that if you name someone who appears in a non-consensual recording, you could be opening yourself up to real legal trouble. We are talking about privacy laws, potential defamation claims, and even criminal questions in some situations. That is why you hear certain hosts saying, "I know names, but I am not going to say them on camera." They are not scared of YouTube comments. They are worried about courtrooms.
Activities together is what this is. And again, that's a potentially outing of somebody as well. You know what I mean? There's so many things here that happen in releasing of this private consensual moment that while salaciously everybody wants to know, and people are messaging me all the time, Andy, who's what? And it's like, I'm not gonna say, because there seem to be way too many things that these people in the tapes, whether consensual, whether they, whatever, didn't agree to put out there. And I would think that's a legal issue too for anybody who puts these out first, no?
Yeah, you nailed it. You can't without the consent of the victim. That's the problem. Somebody thinks that somebody has no idea, right? You said, well, didn't they know they're being recorded? No. I mean, in these situations, the assumption is they did not know. And that's what we believe right now is the victims did not know that they were being recorded. If the victim comes out and says, okay, yes, I knew I was recorded, and a statement is provided, that's a different story. But of course, you don't know that. So you, Andy, probably can't be the one to break that ice and be like, well, this is what I heard and this is what I know, and so I'm going to say it. And there's all kinds of hairy legal issues on that, right? With privacy and intrusion on seclusion is what we call it. It's a privacy violation. There could be defamation implications. There could be criminal implications. So you're doing the right thing by treading carefully. And I think more people should do this rather than get into speculation. Now, if you see the videos, even still, right? If somebody takes...
Not to interrupt, but that's the question. Like, am I allowed to see these videos? Like, if I were to ask this source, show me the videos, do I put myself in worse legal jeopardy?
That's another distinct legal issue, right? It's like you're watching something that someone didn't know they were being recorded of doing, right? And so it's dicey. It's dicey. Now, it would be different if you were an attorney and somebody's coming to you for purposes of defense or prosecution of a claim, a civil claim, or the filing, of some action to recover damages. That's a little different. But for purposes of, hey, look what I got, juicy gossip, and there are reporting outlets that I won't mention that will do stuff like this. I don't know that it's the smartest thing to do. I don't know that it's the careful thing to do. That's for sure. Or it's the ethical or moral thing to do.
Yeah, it is exactly. I'm not a lawyer, but maybe this source will show you, and then you can verify what we know. But here's the other problem. Even if we verify what we know, like as I watched what Ariel, the lawyer, got these tapes, and even again, I don't want to get into the details, any remote details that could help explain or allude to even more of theories that are out there, or debunk or confirm. But I will say, hearing what I heard, which again isn't confirmation, but hearing what I heard, it makes me dislike what Ariel's doing even more, because I think there are going to be people out there, if this information does get out in some way, that are going to deny that these people are victims, that they're going to try to say, oh no, they're just consensually and they were hiding this affair and yada, yada, yada. And I don't see it that way personally. I mean, and granted, I haven't seen or know, like this isn't somebody involved from what I've gathered in these tapes of them, doing it to others in a way, criminally, like we've heard in some of these suits. This is just, it almost feels like, again, if it's real, like blackmail material that Diddy keeps to sort of hold over these people's heads. And to me, that's awful to the people in it, whether they agreed or knew or whatever. It still just feels like that's no one's freaking business. And maybe they were doing it for reasons we don't know. Just because we saw it in the tape doesn't mean they weren't feeling pressured in other ways, right? So it's a heavy and complicated thing, but it's not a hard decision to say, I can't run with trying to even allude to who these people are.
Now bring it back to Ross and 50. 50 has always understood how to mix real life and entertainment in a way that keeps him in control. When he calls out Diddy or Ross, he is not only talking for clicks, he is reminding people of old business, old contracts, and old moments where he feels people got over on him. According to people who knew them early, 50 had reasons to feel like he was underpaid and underappreciated when he was writing things that made serious money for other people. So when he positions himself now as the one who is telling the story the right way, it is not just about heroism, it is also about settling scores. At the same time, there is a part of this that clearly goes beyond rap. You have victims in these Diddy-related situations who say they were hurt, abused, or manipulated over years. You have federal agencies who are not interested in clout, they are interested in evidence. You have recordings that might have started as leverage or trophies and now sit in legal gray zones where nobody wants to say too much on camera. The leak that hit Ross lives right in the middle of that mess. For fans, it is drama, it is content, it is something to react to. For the people inside those circles, it is a warning shot that reminds them nobody is completely safe if they ever got too comfortable around cameras, phones, or people they should not have trusted. So where does this leave Ross? On a surface level, he can keep dropping music, keep promoting brands, keep doing interviews where he laughs things off. That is what a lot of artists do. But reputations in this game are built on more than just hit records. They are built on how believable your image is. Ross has spent years selling the picture of a self-made kingpin-turned-mogul who moves above drama. When a recording makes him sound closer to a controversial figure than he wanted fans to think, it does not matter if he calls it fake news. The seed of doubt is planted. He is now in a position where every future business move will be looked at through that lens. If a brand decides to skip him for a campaign, people will wonder if it is because of what they heard. If another artist backs out of a collaboration, fans will say it is connected, even if it is not. And then there is 50, still watching, still posting, still ready to crack jokes at any sign of weakness. The big question now is not just, what was on that one recording? It is, was that the only piece he has? Or was that just the beginning? 50 has hinted more than once that he knows things other people would rather keep quiet. Some of that might be bluff. Some of it might be deadly serious. In this situation, nobody wants to be the one who calls his bluff and finds out the hard way. So I am going to throw it to you. Do you think 50 is doing this to clean up the culture and hold powerful people accountable? Or is this mainly about revenge, old money, and making sure nobody ever forgets who they played with early on? And where do you think this leaves Ross in the long run? Is this just a temporary storm he can outlast? Or is this the moment where people finally start backing away for good? Let me know in the comments whose side you understand more in this situation and whether you think more leaks are on the way or if this was the big one. If you want deeper breakdowns on the legal side, the industry reactions, and how these stories connect to older beefs, make sure you subscribe so you do not miss the next upload.